Is it, or would you rather want to start with the Rand family?
Oh, it doesn't matter. One of the things that Mom told us was about the monkeys at the auntie's backyard and the fire department. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Tell us what you remember about that.
No, I just remember, and I remember a time when snakes came running around.
Snakes?
Yeah, and they had a the fire department came out and captured them and carried them away. I had a similar experience in my place in South Dade.
Do you remember? Mom said that the fire department came and took fire hoses and tried to knock the monkeys out of the trees, and that all the children, that you all were cheering for the monkeys, and all the adults wanted to get rid of the monkeys. Do you remember that at all?
Just partly. I remember. You know, they had some guava trees beside the house, and I remember one of the monkeys fighting guava.
Do you remember drinking Uncle Tom's home brew up in his place? Mom said that you all got drunk one time, and your mother wondered what was wrong with you. Do you remember that at all?
No, I didn't remember Mother wondering what was wrong. But,
do you remember drinking the home brew?
Yeah, he gave us a few sips. And, but I'll tell you, I can't remember how long we spent at 5 North Osceola, but it must have been maybe even a year.
Tell us about living in the master bedroom there. The whole family was living in that one room, weren't they?
Yeah. And I think Daddy was allowed to come back. Daddy, you see, let's recognize it's a very puritanical Puritan family. It wants everybody just fitting certain standards, and the Rands particularly had all these distinguished people generation after generation. Incidentally, I've got a book here that you all can have temporarily and take home with you, which is a chapter from chapter about the Rand family, a genealogy of the Rand family.
All right.
And starting with Robert and Alice Rand. And you know, I thought that the baby Alice was named after my grandmother, a mother's.
This is a sister of yours who died, is that right, Alice?
Yeah.
And
but there were two babies of
who
the
died?
wars.
Yes.
And baby Alice and another baby that I
didn't
had birth, and I don't know whether they buried him or her in the cemetery.
One of the saddest things to me is thinking about your mother and your father. They took Alice to Jacksonville to a specialist.
Yeah.
And Alice died while they were in Jacksonville.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And they had to drive back with the body in the car. Yeah. What we were talking about Uncle Tom. Tina is very interested in the aunties, and has talked about even writing a little children's book about the aunties. She thinks that they were so cute and.
Well, the two aunties now. Evelyn was something right out of a horrible story, because she had a horrible story herself. She married this into a very distinguished family, and the husband apparently was very much on the loose, and he got syphilis and infected her with syphilis, and she was a very pathetic person that would yell and scream at you. And
when you were a child, she would scream at you?
Oh yes. She lived in
One of the upstairs rooms.
One of the way upstairs.
The attic.
In the attic.
Yeah, at the house.
And then Gregory came back to live with him, and he was a real wild, nasty person. But you know, I had when Fritz became a judge, he decided that he could make decisions. This is it. And even though he hadn't been there or given it any research. And one of the decisions that he made was that Frederick Rand Sr. was a real lovely person. And I said to him, that is absolutely wrong. He was a distinguished person who did and accomplished a lot of things and managed a big family, but he was a first SOB. And sometimes in managing the family.
Somebody told me that your father said that Frederick Henry Rand was a martinet. A martinet, you know.
I'm not sure what a martinet is.
Well, he was kind of detail-oriented and kind of not a lot of emotional.
No emotions at all. And I remember one time when we used to eat. They lugged all the food up to the second floor to our bedroom, and we ate in the bedroom.
You ate in the master bedroom?
Mm-hmm.
Not in the dining room?
No, never in the dining room, because Frederick Rand wanted a quiet, orderly manner with the 3 or 4 children, and didn't want any interruptions or anything at all.
With his children, you mean? So he wanted his children, but not the grandchildren around the table.
So one night, I wondered what goes on down there, and so after I ate, I walked out in the hall. No one was anywhere around, so I crept down the stairs and sat on a step, about 4th or 5th step, and Frederick Rand wasn't there, and the family was standing around the chairs waiting for him. So all of a sudden somebody said, "What are you doing?" And it was Frederick Rand. And he said, "Get back to your place." So I went and scampered up back to my place, and then I came out and looked over, and Frederick Rand was going down the steps. So I waited till he finished going down the steps and scampered right back down. And I began looking between these bars. And he walks in and sits down and apparently mentions something, and then everybody else got to sit down. Same sort of things that I noticed in the Army. If an officer would come in, everybody would stand until they got there. Then he would say, "At ease, gentlemen, let's be seated," and everybody would sit down. So I thought, what in the world? And I'll tell you all another story. Beginning with Trinity Sunday, because it seemed to mention a time when the weather was getting warmer. For about 5 years, we went out to San Leandro Springs, and Daddy and Betty and I used to float around in inner tubes when Mother and Elizabeth Rand always went with us, and Betty would sit there on the shore. Betty was still kind of young. I don't mean Betty, Julie was still kind of young.
Elizabeth Rand was A.B., one of the aunts.
So on the way out and the way back, we were running along a street that ran about several thousand yards south of the street that if you had gone off of it and gone a little bit to the north and then come back, you would have gone right into Longwood. And then you could have turned a little left for a few hundred yards and come to the Rand home. And so as we went to San Leandro